let's turn our eyes to the other side of the mirror.
Okay.
And let's talk about the Mirror Universe episodes that happened on Discovery and compare them to the Mirror Universe episodes that happened on Deep Space Nine. Because there's a very different reason for doing them on both. On Discovery, they're trying to show us what it takes to be a good person in bad times. But really what we're getting out of it on Deep Space Nine is sort of comedic relief.
Yes, like Kira for sure.
Yeah, it's like Kira, it's like serious Kira. The opposite of her is sexy, playful Kira. And so, like, that was fun. I think Nana Visitor, getting to see those two sides of her was interesting. I don't know that seeing both sides of Michelle Yeoh was really that great. I didn't like her character in either scenario.
No.
It's like a boring captain character with no single trait I could say she has other than 4 pips was boring. And then her as like campy, ridiculous, should be hilarious villain that is humorless, like also not good. Like I didn't like either version of that.
I did like her, and I did like the Emperor more, but probably because we got to spend more time with her. And I realized how much I liked her this watch. But yeah, I mean, Deep Space Nine, Mirror Universe is absurd. Like,
I don't remember them that much. They were fun. They were
there's a Ferengi episode in there just for fun.
And you got to see Bashir and O'Brien together as friends in another way.
Yeah,
you know?
and then Tuvok shows up.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's true. I do like the idea that there's more. It's ambiguous. Like they're bad, but they're bad for a reason. The Terrans are bad for a reason. And they're also, and sometimes it's ambiguous. I did like on a Deep Space Nine, you're like, are you really bad? Like, because O'Brien's not really bad.
It's a bit like how Rekha Sharma's character of terrible security guard is terrible security guard in both universes.
Yeah, she's aggressive and
stupid in both universes.
But she's not competent.
Yeah. She's all bluster and has no ability.
Yeah, I really like, because she's not like Worf, like in the sense that he's like aggressive but also like really
he will
competent.
absolutely kill you.
Yeah. But she's just kind of like. And she just has a bad partner too. Like Lorca's her like friend,
just constantly undoing.
Is too bad for her. He's like the worst friend to have. But I really do like that in Deep Space Nine. Like you're kind of like, and even Cisco kind of changes over the time, right? I like the idea that he's in love with Jennifer in both, and that is his kind of through to humanity. Like when he's, when he's Mirror Cisco, he still has a soft spot, because of her. But in Discovery, you don't have that as much. It's weird because you have all this time in the Mirror Universe, like more time than ever,
and kind of nothing really happens.
And then you just you don't get to see the depth of the characters all that much.
When really have the opportunity, it's like, oh man, Lorca's gonna be bad now. We're gonna get to know who he is. He's dead.
Or I would love to see like the difference of the character, because we're spending so much time together. Like to see more of the difference in the characters.
Yeah.
Because the Emperor is just bad. Like she's bad. Like so you're not getting like a nuance. You just know that she's evil, right? Like because she's in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, she's just always gonna do the nasty thing, and you're like, what's the worst thing you could do? Eat that person. She's gonna do it.
But the Terran Empire is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's represented more.
I just
faithfully. Go ahead, please.
But I'm saying it's just strange that they can even operate like that. I feel like it's so risky. I mean, Michael's walking around and she's just making decisions, and I'm like, how do you even know that's how they do stuff?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much in that dossier that you can learn, like, about the culture to be able to get. You're straight up lucky that you got to murder that guy. And dump him out of
you're taking wild guesses and it's just working out.
And as I was rewatching the DS9 episodes, I noticed that there were some moments where, for the first time, because I've seen a lot of these episodes several times, for the first time I went, oh, that's kind of implausible. But for some reason, the implausibles you don't notice them. It's so much easier to suspend disbelief with DS9 than it is with Discovery.
Yeah.
Because it knows what it is.
Yeah.
Right? With Discovery, it doesn't really know what it is. Are we are we Star Trek? One. Are we super, like, violent? you know, like
Are we
kind of
just gonna
like
swear all
Game
the
of Thrones,
time?
yeah,
Are we
Game of
sexy?
Thronesy
What are
kind
we?
of thing, or are we just gonna be like anybody can die at any moment, even like the main character, like, or are we like another kind of sci-fi? You know what I mean? They doesn't really know yet what it is, but by the time, like with Deep Space Nine, like by the time they're in the Mirror Universe, we know they know what they are. They know that they're Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that's right. But even outside the Mirror Universe, there were some moments in DS9 where I thought, well, this is easier to. Like, this is... I didn't notice this at all.
Because you're not...
I believed in the story. It fit, right? They
like, I had to come up with a reason why Martok cutting his hand and blood coming out works, even though he's 100% a changeling. In retrospect, that was changeling Martok that did that. But in Homefront and Paradise Lost... Sisko's dad is like, well, if I was a changeling, I would just fill myself up with a bunch of blood. And you're like... Yeah, well, I guess he did that. Because it is never even close to explained. No one ever touches that again, because I don't think Ronald D. Moore planned on him being a changeling yet. I don't think they thought that far ahead.
Okay.
But it's okay
because it
works, and there is another time in the storyline where that is addressed. So as a fan watching it, you're like, I can mix that in my head, and it comes out the right color.
Right.
You know? And I think there's less of that in Discovery, because it's a different creator from beginning to end.
Yes, yeah, that's where you were seeing, like, it's like Swiss cheese, right?
Yeah, computer.
Very good.
Yeah, Derek says that it's interesting that in Discovery, the resistance to the Terran Empire eventually became like the Terran Empire by the time DS9 came around.
Yes, it is kind of cool that we were able to take a look at two different creators working in the Mirror Universe, one before and one after the single and only episode made by the people who invented it. I think that's a fascinating thing. And, I mean, it is honestly the only reason Discovery was a prequel. There is no other reason to place Discovery in the past, because a war with anybody would work. But if you needed to go into the Mirror Universe to have someone say, make the Empire glorious again, like, if that's the thing you need, then you gotta go before Kirk. And that's that's really a problem that Deep Space Nine made. If Deep Space Nine didn't say, the Empire fell right after that because, you know, Spock broke everything. If it wasn't for that... And we watched the episode that is the reason for it in crossover. They would have been able to place Discovery at any time in the timeline because there would always be a Terran Empire. But they had to place it at a time when the Empire was glorious.
Yeah, it made me think about why, like, what was the kernel that started Discovery? You know, what was the thing that they thought of first? Did they think of Burnham first? Or were they like, ooh, wouldn't it be so cool to have a captain who pretends that he's like, you know, Prime Universe captain, but he's really a Mirror, you know, Universe captain, and then why would he be there? Because with the Mirror Universe, I was like dropped into the middle of the Klingon War, and that whole arc, I was kind of like, at some point when I was binging it, I was like, there's a lot. There's a lot of important stuff happening in the Prime Universe.
And why are we here?
I just kind of thought there was enough content with the war, like, you know, with Paradise Lost that are like, I mean, the Deep Space Nine arc that we're talking about. There's like enough content there to do, you know, 15 episodes that you don't have to be in the Mirror Universe at all, you know, to tell that story. Yes. So I was kind of like, especially binging it, I was like,
why are we doing this?
There's really a lot of stuff to cover. You know, we got to get back there to cover all that stuff. And it shows because all of a sudden we're back in the Mirror Universe. 2 episodes later, war over.
Yeah.
Right?
Big rush. You could have just backed that off a bit.
Yeah,
I really think when you're talking about the kernel of where this idea came from, Manny Kato wanted all of season 5 of Enterprise to take place in the Mirror Universe. Wanted to do the whole season in the Mirror Universe just to mess with us. It was just an idea he was batting around, and then the show was canceled. But I think Fuller or Kurtzman or both had this idea that what if we really told an interesting long story in the Mirror Universe, and a story that was about the Mirror Universe the whole time? Because Lorca showing up in episode 3 and dying in episode, 413 means that is 10 episodes about the Mirror Universe.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you mean by him, by virtue of him being there at all?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it comes down to watching the mirror universe and its belief in things impact our universe and how that goes back and forth. And, you know, as I was watching, CV Possum Parabellum is good for this, but really Into the Forest I Go is the best for this. When you're watching Lorca, and he seems like a genuine, wonderful discoverer. And you're like, oh my God, this guy's a great captain. He's wonderful. And looking at it, knowing that he's Mirror Lorca now, is just like, this is written terribly. This guy should be nowhere near this good at this.
Like, yeah, why is he so good?
Yeah, and why in a million years, I think Jason Isaacs is an amazing actor. You cast the wrong cat to play a surprise villain, because he is always a villain. It was in no way a surprise.
But if it would have been a surprise if he wasn't the villain, that would have been the surprise.
That would have been the surprise.
Or, like, that they put the trajectory and made him look like he was like Mirror or a villain, and then they just and they got right to the edge and then pulled it back. Then we would have been like, "What? I thought it was you all along because you were so villainy." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like really like it was like if it was like if Game of Thrones was like, oh. Yeah, Sean Bean, he always dies, but he's right on the edge of dying, and then no,
Sean Bean didn't die.
Then you would be like, whoa.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, if they had cast any other actor in that role, it would have worked better for me. And the fact that they repeated the beat of, this is a nice guy, this is a nice guy, this is a nice guy, oh, he's a bad guy, with Ash and with Lorca. And you're like, okay, so one of them gets killed, the other one doesn't. Is the only difference between these two beats. Oh my God.
And is Lorca dead?
Well, at least one Lorca's dead.
Yeah.
Where's the other?
Where's the other?
That's the key.
You know what I would love about Prime Universe Lorca, who could potentially be in the Mirror Universe? I would love if he's like, I am gonna kill it if he's bad. Like if he's like actual like Prime is also bad,
just
and
a
he's
real
like,
son of a bitch.
and he's like really making a killing in the he's like the Emperor. Like go back and he's like the Emperor.
That would be amazing.
He can't be that good. He can't be that good because the Admiral noticed something's up with him, but it's not so severe that she won't. She interacts with him as if it's him.
Yeah.
Just notices certain things.
Pretty convincing, I guess.
That good. Prime Universe Lorca.
If
Looking forward to it.
He's like hanging out in Mirror Universe, he's like, this. I wish I was always like.
I just murder people and get paid. This is not so bad. Computer.
Jeff says on rewatching the series, the number of times we see Lorca's reflection is ridiculous. How did he miss that clue so many times? That's disgusting.
Right? Oh,
it's very true.
Now, when we watched all the Deep Space Nine episodes, we didn't interact with a lot of humans, but how was their light sensitivity? It kind of seemed like everybody was okay, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, maybe it's 100 years worth of adaptation, but I do call bullshit on that truly terrible idea.
I did not like that. And you know, I'm very forgiving of things on Discovery. Well, I mean, it's getting harder. But I am mostly forgiving. But I was like, come on, guys. Could it be anything else? Like, basically, because I just felt like, where did this thing come from that was never there?
And how did doctors believe it was an injury? It's just his biology. That's just weird. It's just everything about that does not compute. That seems like something that Brian Fuller added to the character at the beginning, and then Gretchen and Kurtzman were like, everyone in the Mirror Universe likes it in the dark. And it's like, no.
And there was nothing about the mycelial network that got more interesting.
No.
The second time around. Nothing about it. Not compelling at all. Boring.
And in fact, the glowing blue things that zip around that are not the same thing that showed up on Burnham's shuttle in episode 3 are not the same thing as the Pavins and have nothing to do with the mycelial network. That those three things all looking precisely the same and not being the same thing. Horrible idea. Well, there are so many colors. Why did you choose blue for everything sparkly and weird? What the hell?
Like, I was thinking about when I was mentioning it when Stamets comes in and he's like, and he just saw some of it. I was just like, he just saw some space jam drift.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I was like, I thought about that. I was like, everything's the same. Everything's the same. But also, we'll never see that again. The amount of times I saw something on Discovery and then went, well, I guess we're never going to see that again. That's the only time that's happening. You know what I mean? I think even, you know the fortune cookies?
Yep.
He like talked about being like in business, like his family.
It was
business.
an old family business.
I was like,
why? Yeah, what is the point?
Why tell that story? And why was that written, like, as a thing?
This time around, rewatching Discovery, I was like, wasted time. Because now that I know where it goes, it's like, you could have shaved this down, and it would have made way more sense, or you would have had room for, other important things, answering questions that mattered to the viewer. Yeah.
They needed an editor. That's all.
I also thought it was strange, unless you want to talk about something.
Well, I was thinking it might be time to talk about the morals of these things. And if we're talking about morals,
it's got to be red.
It's time to talk about whether this treks it
are
or
we
this
trekking or wrecking?
We're trekking or wrecking. We need to figure out whether 15 episodes of Discovery and these specific 15 episodes of Deep Space Nine give us what Roddenberry said Star Trek is, which is a way of looking at us and learning about ourselves. What do you think about Discovery? Is it Star Trek in that beautiful sense?
Oh, Matt. Okay, so I do think that I'm going to be forgiving because the fact that they changed showrunners. It's a pilot season. They're working through those kinks. They have to meet some of the standards of canon and that sort of thing. So I'm going to be forgiving, and I'm going to say it does in its way. I think it trekked it in its way. It's like it couldn't have been like Deep Space Nine. We're doing a comparison to something, I guess, that they had 3 years to, work up to.
Yeah.
Which, had never been done before, and Discovery had a template for.
Yeah, exactly. They have multiple templates for how to do it. So I'm being very forgiving. But it also, it's weird. There's that episode, it's called Vaulting Ambition, right? And I'm like, did they have Vaulting Ambition? Like, you know what I mean? Like the actual showrunners? Because, they seem not to care. The way, like, Macbeth is like, I don't really care. I just kind of want this position. And they were like, we have Star Trek, but we don't really care. We're just
going to fill 15 hours.
Yeah, we're just going to do it anyway. And so, I don't know. Like, I will say that it did, but they ran out of time. And they didn't have to run out of time.
Yeah. They just kind of squandered their time.
Because in that last episode, they're like, oh, she's going to make so many speeches. You know what I mean? Because we forgot about Star Trek. Right? Yeah. So they're just like, we're going to be like, make our main character all of a sudden be like, this is what this has always been about, and we haven't missed a beat, and she's going to make she makes, first of all, she does a voiceover, and then she does the speech to the Admiral on the bridge, and then she does the speech at the end, and then there's a little bit more voiceover, bookending, the two speeches, and I was like, guys, you just kind of slapped this together in the end.
Could have put that in the dialogue in the 14 preceding hours.
So, I would say it trekked it.
It is bad for all these reasons,
and Deep Space Nine definitely trekked it.
Okay.
Because, and I will explain, because it's not just because it's, more canon show. It's because there are very specific things about humanity, how it's handled throughout the entire thread, what all the different characters face and why they're put on the edge of being at war, how it's so out of the norm for Starfleet and the Federation to be at actual war, that, you know what I mean, that it's brought up constantly, that they're constantly facing it, that it's not a total bloodbath just because there's these waiting periods between, like the way war actually is, where there's space between, where people are regrouping and figuring out things, and also tapping into their morality on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Where this is kind of thrown in Discovery, it's kind of thrown in at the last minute. Oh yeah, by the way, humanity. You know what I mean? So yeah, Deep Space Nine trekked it too.
Okay. Sonia?
Solid trek though.
Trekked it, wrecked it, season versus season.
So Discovery, I would say, I think the intention was there to do a Roddenberry, to teach us about ourselves, right? But, I mean, the execution wasn't there. It wasn't. And so for me, and ironically, not ironically, and I say it ironically because before I said that I thought it was revolved too much around Michael, but that was what they did. They decided for it to alter revolve around Michael, and you could see the things that Michael struggled with could have been. They were good storylines, like mutiny. Like, how to assess that mutiny, and how to assess people's distortion of it as well, you know, about how people talked about Michael and how Michael took it, you know, Michael's guilt, and those are all, but it was because it was too much about her and because of the way that they structured things, it was very unsatisfying. And so I would have to say, no, Discovery wrecked it for me because the execution took away from so much of the potential. I think the ideas were there, and I think that the storylines could have been presented to us in a more satisfying way. Well, Deep Space Nine, I have a lot of love for DS9, and so yes, I mean I can't even talk about DS9 objectively, you know, as much as I can Discovery. I would say that yes, it trekked it. It trekked it for sure, and there was one thing I definitely wanted to say. Now I can't remember. Oh my God!
That's okay.
Of course, Vanya articulated it beautifully about the space in between the episodes and the regrouping, and
which is just sort of a function of network TV because they got to fill 22 hours with something.
But I'm not even talking about the actual episodes. I'm talking about looking at that arc, purely binging that arc, and being like the way that the people, the span of time. You know, you're dealing with Oh, say it then.
No,
do it.
Thank you, because I might forget. It was the allies, the changing of allies, the necessary changing of allies. I thought definitely was something. It's a great storyline that we can get something from, right? It really teaches us about ourselves and about how human beings sometimes have to compromise in order to. So I thought that was an excellent part of it, and that really added to the trekking of DS9.
Well, the spaces I was talking about were even just okay. You know, if you look at Homefront, you know, he goes to the planet, he finds out that the changelings are there, but it's kind of like he deals with one other thing, and then we still know that the changelings are there, and then things still continue, right? Like, so there's these spaces of time where, you know, it's like, it's not just action-packed to tell us a story.
Yeah.
They're actually filling out the story, what would happen here. He's dealing with other things having to do with his father, you know what I mean? Things that aren't about the war, but are about the war.
But they're couched in the war,
you know
so
it
matters.
Yeah. So I mean, those spaces. Not even talking about like how Explorers comes between like two, you know, like two of those episodes or whatever. Talking about even just within that arc. Yeah,
absolutely. So I would say that Discovery wrecked it, and this is why. I don't even think their intentions were noble. I think they accidentally made two really great episodes of Star Trek in the middle there by sheer fluke, because they've got all the right ingredients to make Star Trek. They happen to make Star Trek 2 hours out of 15, but I think they spent the first 2 hours of this show smashing everything that means Star Trek. They decided this is not about people who are working together for a common goal. This is not about building things together. This is about war. This is about people we already like and built bridges with in previous seasons. Now they're scarier. Now they're more dangerous. It's about xenophobia. It's about all of these characters being afraid. Our main character is a man who's afraid of everything. Like, there were so many characters in this. The Kelpian is just, his through line is fear. And I think all of that stuff is the antithesis of what makes Star Trek. And I think ultimately, when they get to the end, and in one of Burnham's speeches, she basically apologizes for the last 14 hours of what you saw, that doesn't put a Band-Aid over it that I can accept. That, to me, is... You didn't make Star Trek for 14 hours. You made a war show in space, and you did it in a way that kind of shits on a bunch of stuff that is established by 700 hours of shows that were better than yours. And so you don't get to do that because all those other shows tried to fit in that universe. This show was not Star Trek, but it could be. Because those 2 hours give me so much hope that this team can do it, that these actors will be able to deliver it, that those characters can do it. When they accidentally make Star Trek, it works. I just think Kurtzman doesn't know what Star Trek is. Because the first and second Star Trek movies prove he can't do it in a 2-hour window, which is fair, because Star Trek movies tend to be like action movie garbage. But Star Trek series... isn't allowed to be that. Star Trek series is a nobler thing than that. And I think season 2 might just be that. I'm gonna watch a whole other season. Maybe I'm an idiot for doing that.
No.
But I'm gonna watch a whole other season of this thing because I think this show could Trek it. And Deep Space Nine obviously treks it.
No, you're a Star Trek fan. That's why you're an optimist.
Yeah, I'm an optimist because of Star Trek.
Fans,
Yes.
Star Trek fans are optimists, or we wouldn't watch Star Trek because Star Trek is about optimism and the future and looking ahead.
It's about how the future will be better.
You know what I mean? And how, it's about all that stuff. That's why you're going to get suckered into a second season. Sorry, Matt. Star Trek
You
fan.
got me, CBS. You got me. Computer?
Well, Derek and I agree with a couple of things. Derek and Melissa do. He feels that since CBS did not approve of Axanar, they still wanted to do a Star Trek in a wartime environment with the Klingons.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it feels more like a 15-hour movie, but he thinks it trekked it on a base level.
Okay.
He's going with Trek.
Yes.
Okay.
Like sloppy.
Fair.
A sloppy.
A sloppy Trek.
That's mine. That's mine. Sloppy Trek.
Sloppy Trek.
Sloppy Trek.
Melissa says that she thinks that perhaps Discovery is responding to the world of fear and division we're living in with more fear and aggression. Where past Star Trek tried to offer different ways of dealing with that fear and aggression. And maybe season 2 will move more toward that kind of Trek.
Yeah, I think Melissa's got an interesting point because Star Trek was born out of the time of mutually assured destruction. The planet could have been eliminated at any time. And that show chose to be about how all that technology that could kill us could also send us to the stars. And now we're in a time where, you got an asshole president who's like wrecking shit and is an insane person, and you've got a whack job who's in charge of North Korea who could like maybe bomb 200 feet out in front of his waterfront. But the planet isn't like on the verge of complete obliteration, and it hasn't been for like 25 years now. We are very safe as a people.
Touch wood. Knock on.
Right?
Like,
there is no great trigger fingers ready to end the planet in the way that there was in the 60s and 70s and the 80s. And so the idea that we would meet this like far less dangerous planet that we're in today in 2018 with more fear and aggression than they did in the 60s, I call bullshit on this entire generation of people. No. Optimism and belief that things can be better when we are together and make it better. That to me is Star Trek. And that to me is what will make us go to great, wonderful places in the universe.
You are right, because when I did you're right, because when I did binge those, I mean, I've seen those Deep Space Nine episodes many times, but I haven't binged them like that and skipped the episodes in between. And I did think, man, that's what Star Trek is, that thing that gives you that feeling where you're like, the world can be a better place, that humans aren't so bad, you know what I mean? And it's not just a show. It's not just a show.
Yeah.
I think this is what you're trying to say. But I do think Discovery is playing into the way every other show does, instead of like sticking to canon and being like this franchise. And in what makes me frustrated about the fact that they went backwards again, is that Star Trek is supposed to be a forward show, and it seems like every incarnation since post Voyager has been like they're making it into a nostalgia franchise, which is really frustrating, because we should be going forward with a show like this, or at least at the very least, Discovery be telling stories that make us think forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make us think about the future that you're in, that we're not supposed to be in yet, but the hope of that. So I understand what you're saying, but I do think there were glimmers. I mean, they mashed it in those speeches at the end, but that is the glimmer of what. That's not even close to the best episodes, right? But but at least the messages of what she's saying, if they continue on that and they make episodes based on the way she was talking in the final episode, then there's hope.
Yeah, if Star Trek Discovery Season 2 begins in the first hour with some reason to not be Star Trek, gives us 15 hours of not Star Trek, and then gives us a speech at the end? No, man. No, you gotta elevate. Star Trek needs to elevate out of the grimy mire bullshit that Earth is in right now and find a way to tell a story that is better than that. That's what makes Star Trek work. That's what made Discovery not work. But when Discovery did that, God damn, it worked!
Yeah, and I the thing about the way I've always thought about television, I watch a lot of television, like a lot. I watch a lot of shows. But the thing since I was a small child, I've always thought about television. There's Star Trek, and then there's everything else.
Yep.
Everything else,
Yeah.
and even some of the best shows I've ever seen on TV. There's still Star Trek over here. You know what I mean? That gives me something else that's different.
Yeah.
That elevates.
Was that sense of positive hopefulness?
Yeah, that hopefulness that it's a philosophy. It's not just TV.
Yeah.
Right? That there's a message. There's a message that's deeper than just entertainment. There's something else. So my whole life I've been thinking about Star Trek that way. I still gave you a soft track to Discovery, but I do expect more for the second season.
Yeah. So Gretchen, Alex, we are expecting a lot from you. You've been writing since January. Apparently, you're starting shooting in April.
Yeah.
So don't fuck it up. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Just do better. Do better this time. We believe you can, because we
Boldly
saw
go.
you accidentally do it better.
Boldly go.
Boldly go. Exactly.
We saw you accidentally do it better.
So we know you can.
That might have been the greatest backhanded comment I've ever seen in my life.
Oh man. So now it is time to give away some very exciting fun stuff to a commenter on Highball TV and McNaughts. Your comment specifically about how you're looking forward to seeing what they do with Vok after that reveal. Your comment has won you some very fun Star Trek stamps and, might I say, limited edition panel of prestige stamp booklets. And there's no Star Trek Discovery to be found on it. So take that as you will. It's every other captain. And to be fair, we never really had much of a captain on Star Trek Discovery anyway, so it might technically make you feel better. And hey, this ship almost showed up at the end. We almost had something that looked like the 1701.
Talk about yanking our chains, eh?
Yeah. Oh, I saw this
and then
beautiful
the music.
fan version of it where they put the actual, like, what the Enterprise should look like in that moment. It looks beautiful. There's no reason to, like, cock it up a little bit by degrees here and there. It's just people full of themselves. That's the way to change it. Anyway, congratulations, McNaughts.
Congratulations.
You get these as
Congratulations.
well as a $100 iTunes gift card, so don't spend it all in one place. And we are very much... Just kidding, you have to spend it all in one place. So, we're very much looking forward to chatting more about Orville and about Discovery, both of which they are making more of this year, and we are going to be seeing more of this year. So, stay tuned to what Your Geek News is going to be talking about. Keep up with Trek It or Wreck It. You can follow us on Twitter, and we are very much looking forward to having more fun conversations like this with you live. And if you're watching this on Highball TV or on YouTube, maybe next time check it out live. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And we'll see you then.